Good day, students. This is Module 3 for the subject Advertising and Media Research. And for today, we are going to discuss about different sampling techniques. And our learning outcomes at the end of the lesson, students will be able to uh, identify the different types of probability sampling. They will know how to apply the different types of sampling techniques. We have an exercise and they are going to have a comprehensive knowledge on the different types of experimentation. Okay? So again, this is related to advertising and media research. Let's start. Uh, what is probability sampling? Probability sampling is that this is the assumption. Every member has a known chance of being selected for the sample. Probability sampling is defined as a sampling technique in which the researcher chooses samples from a larger population. Like this is your population, so the researcher chooses a sample out of this population. Okay, and then using a method based on the theory of probability for participants to be considered as a probability sample, he or she must be selected during a random selection, an entirely random method of selecting the sample. Okay? The sampling method is easy as assigning numbers to the individuals, the sample, and then randomly choosing from those numbers through an automated process. Finally, the members that are chosen are the members that are included in the sample. So uh, that is probability sampling, no? And one type of probability sampling is called simple random sample, no? In a simple random sample, nothing is done to alter or change the probability. Example, you have, let's say, 50 students and I want to choose a sample that I will, that I will draw lots, no? Let's say, for example, I will number my lot from, let's say, 1 to 15. And then these people is going to, choose a lot, and whoever takes the number is included in the sample. So that is a concrete example of a probability sampling, or a simple random sample. Now, under the simple random sample, we have an interval sampling. So, interval sampling is, no, interval sampling is randomly designate a starting point on the list. Okay, count down the list, selecting names at designated intervals may not be appropriate when given a long list. So example of this interval sampling. For example, I have 50 students and then I will start from number 5th list of the students and then I will give an interval of every 3 students. So meaning to say, uh, now let's go to cluster sampling. Cluster sampling is a probability sampling technique where researchers divide the population into multiple groups or clusters for research. Researchers then select random groups with a simple random technique or systematic random sample technique for data collection and data analysis. So, cluster sampling is drawing a cluster or segment, no? For example, this is the population. I will draw clusters or segment. All right? Okay? and then, or units instead of one name at a time. That is cluster sampling. Later on, I will give you an actual demonstration or actual situation wherein we will apply all of these types of probability. Yeah, basically, they are sharing a same attributes. Like for example, members, the characteristic or attribute is like for example, income or educational attainment. So stratified random sampling is also called proportional random sampling or quota random sampling. So they have to share the same attributes and characteristics. Okay. The next is experiments. What is experiment? Experiment has two attributes, the causation or the why and the correlation or relationship. I have here a typical example of a telecommunication example wherein the specification is inadequate RAM, no? Specifications usually built in the this is the read-only memory for a particular cell phone. Now, the complaint is about one of the user whenever he or she sends a message, the problem encountered is her phone freezes. Okay? So, here we can see the whether X cause Y or Y cause X. Okay? Okay. So, this is might be the Y and this is the X. So, because of the inadequate memory of the RAM, okay, the effect on that is frequent freezing of the phone. It hangs up, right? Or because of inadequate RAM, the text message won't work because the phone freezes because of the X variable, which is the inadequate memory capacity of the RAM. So this is a typical example of causation. Now, the correlation exists. The X caused Y or the Y did not cause X. So the correlation is between the phone freezes and the text won't work. So there is a significant relationship that is happening to uh, this variable. The phone freezes, therefore the text won't work. The text won't work because the phone hangs up. And the root cause of the problem is the inadequate specifications of the memory. So that is a good example of the difference between a causation and a correlation. Right? Please remember that, student. The exercise goes like this. You are conducting a research on the influence of TV commercial with Filipino family values as creative handle. That is the title of your research. And the instructions are to limit your research among the households in Ayala Alabang Village, wherein the total population of household is 1,485 households. Now, your margin of error is set at 7.25%, your margin of error. Along with the instructions given to you is the copy of the directory of the Ayala Alabang Village Association. And you are going to use probability sampling, particularly one is interval sampling, You are going to use interval sampling in identifying the respondents to your survey. Okay? Now, assume a pre-designated starting point. This is for your interval at 16 and then an interval of every 3. So, there is already a pre-drawn cluster in the different area of Ayala Alabang, which you are going to explore your experiment in Purok number 3 of the village because it has 75 households residing in that particular segment or cluster. So very clear, no? So we will apply the different sampling probability technique that we learned. So here is the mandate. You define the population in the case, and then you determine through a sample computation the sample size. So the population is designated by a capital letter N, and the sample size is designated with the small letter n. Okay? And identify the members of the sample. You will identify the members of the sample. So what are you going to do? You have to compute the population size. The cluster is in Purok number 3. Purok number 3, okay? And the household is consisting of 75 household in Purok number 3. So, meaning to say, your capital N is 75 household. So, you will identify your small letter n. Okay? Alright. So, therefore, through the use of Slovin's formula, okay, the population divided by 1 plus the population, close in parentheses, the margin of error squared. So, you have to substitute the values in this formula. So, your total population is 75, 1 plus 75. The margin of error is going to be divided by 100 to get this decimal figure or value. Okay? Alright. So, you square this one, you have 0.0052 multiplied by 75. So, what is the process? The process is you square first the margin of error. This one first. You square this one so that you will get this value, 0.0052. And then, the next process, you divide 75 divided by 0.0052 and you get this value. Okay? And then, the next process, you add 1 plus 0.39, so you get this process. And then you divide 75 by 1.39, you get the small letter n, 53.9. And of course, you have to round it off to a whole number. So, it is 54. So, your n now is 54 with a margin of error set at 7.25%. Alright, so you now have your identified sample size based on the total population of household in Purok 3. So, how do you do now the interval sampling? It is mentioned here that there is a criteria that the designated starting point is number 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we start with Munoz household. Now, These names are taken from the directory of the village. And we list down all the 75 names that are residing in Purok number 3 in that particular cluster. And then our criteria is to identify first who is the household underlying number 16. So there is an interval of 3. So 1, 2, 3, Placido, and then 1, 2, 3, this number, and then 1, 2, 3, this household, so forth and so on. So now, we combine the simple random, we combine the stratified, we combine the interval sampling. Okay? Now, how do you do the clustering? The clustering is, of course, Purok number 3. And what is this? Stratified. We assume that there are 5 streets in Purok number 3. So you get the population of each of the street. For example, this is Purok number 3. Okay? This is the major thoroughfare, and there are 5 streets in that vicinity, which is Purok number 3. That is the clusters. And then you are going to get the population of all the household living in those major thoroughfare or streets, no? Okay? And then you compute the sample size based on the percentage population of each street. Okay? So, meaning to say, you will get the sample size of the population residing on that street. And the formula that you are going to use is 75 over the population residing here, and the certain figure that you will get is this one. Example 1. Okay. In street number 1, you have 18. So, the stratified sampling, you know that there are 75. Okay? All right? You you know, no? And then in street number 2, you have this number of samples that you need. So in other words, more samples were taken from street number 1, and and then secondary population was in street number 2, so that when you total this one, this is 75. Okay? That is the population for for the total population, and of course you already identified the small letter n. Okay? All right, now let's go to experiments. In experiment, we mentioned already correlation and causation. And in correlation, the three evidences to support X that is causing Y. In correlation, Y has to change in value when X changes. Meaning to say, the value of, let's say, Y is going to change when X value is going to change. Meaning to say, from 4, it went to 5, so this one is going to change. In sequence, Y has to appear after X, or Y has to change in value when X changes in value. Same with correlation. And absence of other causal factors, no other factors could cause Y to change. Okay? So these are the three evidences to support X causing Y: correlation, sequence, and absence of no other causal factors. So in experimentation, okay, a research design whose elements are controlled, independent variables, and dependent variables. So you have an independent variable and a dependent variable. So in other words, this independent variable is the one that you are controlling and the one that you are manipulating to, for example, you set the independent variable at 23 degrees centigrade if this is an air conditioning thermostat. So the temperatures that you are going to be taken here are based on the effect of the 23 degrees centigrade. Now, in my second experiment, I want to change my independent variable to 25. Therefore, the values of y is going to change also. If I set my temperature control to 21 degrees centigrade, and of course, the values that I will get to my y will also change. Okay? Alright. So, again, there is the independent variable and the dependent variable. Right? Just remember, the independent variable is the variable you are controlling or manipulating, while the dependent variable is the one that is going to have an effect because of the control manipulation that you did with the independent variable. Okay? So if y changes, of course, the value of, if x, you are going to preset this one, of course, will have the value, and then you are going to do another experiment, of course, the value of y is going to change again. Okay? So, this experiment, no, purpose is to detect the direction of relationship. So, what are examples of X cause Y? Examples are effects of government intervention to the, inadequate supply of rice, no, because the demand is greater and the supply is lesser. The impact of new technologies to the production volume, no? The impact of new technologies to the economy of the country. Consequences of global warming. What are the consequences? X and Y. So, if you if there are so many carbon dioxide emission in the atmosphere, of course, the green, no, the green gases effect is, shielding the atmosphere, and there is global warming, and it causes changes in our weather, no, like for example, long rainy season, or La Nina, and uh, long summer effect, no, uh, and then the effectiveness of medical treatment, like for example right now, no, they are trying to clinically experiment the effect of the vaccine for COVID-19. No, the harms of street drugs. That is a very concrete example of causation. No, example is the influence of popular movies to our youth. All right, some causal statements sounds strong, no? Such as when we say that a treatment cured someone, or that an announcement by the government caused a riot. Like for example, the terrorism bill, no? There is an announcement, so right now people are, an organized group are complaining about this terrorism bill, no? All right. So these are examples, no? Control means the ability to manipulate, which is the independent variable. Experimental group, or group to whom you administer the experimental stimulus or treatment, or the independent variable, the thing or the phenomenon you are studying, no? So this is experimentation, and experimentation is part of quantitative research. In our next module, we will discuss about quantitative and qualitative methods of research. Again, I want you to keep safe. If you are new to the channel, please, I am requesting you to subscribe and click the bell like the video, and share it. Again, always keep safe and I'll see you on my next tutorial video. Bye.